Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode 5 of Drafting a Championship Team Around X Player. Uh, Episode 1, Christian McCaffrey. Episode 2, Tyreek Hill. 3, CeeDee Lamb. 4, Justin Jefferson. At the 5th ADP spot is Jamar Chase. And now there are a lot of questions coming up about Jamar Chase, about his contract, how that's going to go. But I mean, he's been practicing. It sounds like he's going to play even during these talks. And with CeeDee Lamb having his deal already, I'd assume if there are talks and if the Bengals are going to do anything, it's going to ramp up soon. But I don't think it's nearly as dire as CeeDee Lamb. I think if Jamar Chase is there at 5, if he's your guy, I think you still take him, no hesitation. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a championship team around him. Again, for those of you who maybe this may be your first video in the series or whatever, we're going off of a standard kind of roster here: quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, 2 flex, kicker, defense, bench. Again, this is half PPR. So again, just be aware. If you have full PPR, if you have standard, if you have some other weird scoring, or if your roster is different, the ADPs are going to adjust a little bit. So understand that we're looking at your regular standard 10-team half PPR league. So with all that being said, let's just jump into it. Obviously, we know how it is. Round 1, 5th pick, Jamar Chase. Good at wide receiver there. Obviously, wide receiver 1 for your team. And let's see how the rest of it plays out here as we come to the second round. Okay. All right. Well, not much different from other drafts. We did. If you looked at any of the episodes, especially 4 or 3, Puka made it to us a couple times. Kyron did. Derek did. Here or there. Etienne hasn't. So that tells you something about the ADPs. But the board we're looking at Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry, Drake London, Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, Chris Olave. Before you get that pushback in round 3, you look at the ADPs for round 3, and my point of view is Travis Kelce will probably be there, or he should be there based on ADPs. Ayuk, Pacheco, Samuel, Evans, Laporta. So obviously you don't take tight end here. I've talked ad nauseum. I don't think you take quarterbacks top 2 rounds ever. I think that's a smart decision. So it really doesn't matter running back or wide receiver unless you really don't like Isaiah Pacheco, because the next closest running back is Rachaad White. So if you're drafting at the spot and you don't like Isaiah Pacheco, I'd say you got to go running back here, Kyron Williams or Derrick Henry. If you love Pacheco and you're fine with hoping nobody scoops him up a pick or 2 early, I think you wait and take a wide receiver here. For me personally, I'm not completely sold on Jamar Chase compared to Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb. I think he's a great player, but I think he is sometimes taken out of games at times by Zach Taylor himself in terms of play calling. I don't think they do a good enough job with him. So I worry about him a little bit. So in other leagues where or in other drafts where I'd usually, just do whatever and do whatever drops to me and just kind of not worry about it. With Jamar Chase, I am worried a little bit. So I want to make sure I have a solid base around him. Because there will be weeks he carries you. I think he carries you a little less than a Jefferson, Lamb, or Hill, obviously. So for me, I'm looking for what can I get that I know is going to be solid. And for me, I think that's Kyron Williams right here. I think that's him. He's a starter. We know he's a good pass catcher. He can run it well. The Rams believe in him. Again, I don't think Blake Corum's going to be a factor. I like Puka, but I think Puka has some questions of his own in terms of regression, with Cup being full. Obviously, he's got excuse the misclick there. He's got, the questionable tag there. Obviously, he's back at practice, so it shouldn't be a big issue, but still leads to some hesitation. So for me, again, I want a solid base around Chase. I don't want to have to try to get Pacheco. I want to make sure I know I have a running back. So here I'm taking Kyron Williams. And again, I think he's better than Derrick Henry. I think pass catching wise, he's better, and that's what sets him apart from me. So we'll go Kyron Williams in the second round, and we will see what comes back to us in the third. And here we go. Looks like Olave made it back to us as well. Travis Kelce's there, Brandon Ayuk, Isaiah Pacheco, Deebo Samuel, Sam Laporta, Jalen Hurts. So now here, it's interesting because you do have a solid wide receiver, you do have a solid running back. Do you go tight end here with Kelce? Do you hold off a little bit? For me personally, I think you can hold off on tight end here. Again, I'm not, whereas when you had CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill and you go elite, I think you need a better base here. So I'm looking wide receiver, running back. And for me, I think you get a lot of running backs later. And the only problem here being my top two picks, personally, with the question marks around the 49ers, especially with Trent Williams holding out with his contract. We've seen the stats. Their offense is much worse without him. Brock Purdy, much worse without him. Obviously, trade rumors with Ayuk, injury concerns with Samuel, so much going on there. I think it's between Olave and Pacheco. The problem is Olave is the same bye week as Chase. Pacheco is the same bye week as Kyron Williams. That I don't love. So although I said I think you can hold off on tight end here, we are going to go Travis Kelce because, again, I don't like the stacking of the bikes with those guys. When you have elite players like CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill, I think it's fine. But especially with the late bye, like a week 12 bye, I don't like that because if you're going to be in the playoff hunt, things can happen. And round 6, I don't love Pacheco enough with Kyron Williams to take both those bye at the same time. Travis Kelce, I think, is a difference maker. Obviously, his bye is the same bye as Kyron Williams, but that won't matter too much with those two positions. So we're going to take Travis Kelce here, shore up 3 positions, get 3 different positions off the bat. That's a good start. And we're going to see what comes back to us in round 4. And there is round 4, and Rachaad White went early in that 4th round. That was unfortunate. I was hoping we'd get back to him, but now it's us in round 4, and got Kyron, Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce. For me, again, I want a good base. Stephon Diggs, I don't buy him. We've talked about that. Jalen Waddle's a good player. I like him. DJ Moore, I don't trust anybody in the Bears offense until I see that shake out a little bit with the new quarterback. And especially Keenan Allen there now. James Cook, I'll never trust him. Again, goal to go work with Josh Allen there is going to be non-existent for him to get touchdowns. DK Metcalf, do you trust Geno Smith? Malik Neighbors, do you trust that offensive line? So a lot of questions around the board. So for me, I'm zoning out on Lamar Jackson here. I understand you can wait on quarterback, get some great quarterbacks, but for me, 3 quarterbacks already came off the board. I think this is a good place to take Lamar Jackson. Wide receivers I've talked about. I really love the wide receivers late. Really love the running backs late. I think you get a difference maker here in Lamar Jackson, a guy who is going to be a top fantasy option for you. Obviously, last year, quarterback 4, and years before that, 14, 15 with some injuries, but 10-1. You're getting an elite playmaker if he's on the field. We can't predict injuries, so we're not going to go into that. But with Derrick Henry, it'll ease up the load off of him, probably make his job easier. So I think he's as safe as ever in terms of injuries if you're worried about that. So I think Lamar Jackson is a good pick here. And now, you'll look at it, we have an elite player at every position. Maybe not elite, but very, very good at every position. And we wait for the 5th round to see how it mixes up. And speaking of mixing up, pun intended, Joe Mixon on the board as a running back. And, I'm not even going to discuss DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman, or Kenneth Walker. We know the problems with each. Obviously, Kenneth Walker, injuries, DK Metcalf, Geno, and throwing tantrums, to be honest. Inconsistency is a big one. And Michael Pittman, Anthony Richardson, I got to see if he can stay healthy. He's had injury problems his entire career. Joe Mixon, I think he shores up top 2 running backs for you. And so I think he's a great pick here. I think he's the last really good running back available. I would have preferred Alvin Kamara, but I love Joe Mixon here, so we'll take Joe Mixon here, show up those running backs, and feel good about that. So coming around round 6, can we get one of those late wide receivers? We can. And that is exactly what I was looking for, exactly what I thought. With some of these teams taking a lot of wide receivers. Anthony Richardson is there. Obviously, we're not taking him. The move here, Aaron Jones, I like. But, we already have 2 running backs. That's not the thing we're looking at. Kittle, Pitts, again, I like him. We already have Kelsey. Don't even have to worry about that. So it's going to be a wide receiver. So for me, it comes down to Tank Dell or Amari Cooper. Neither have bye week issues with Jamar Chase. For me, I'm going to Amari Cooper. It doesn't matter who's throwing on the ball, even if it's a really poor Deshaun Watson. He's done a good job. Tank Dell, I love him a lot. With Stephon Diggs coming in the mix, with Joe Mixon coming in the mix, I don't know how that affects his targets. He's going to get his, but I don't know if he's worthy of this ADP into wide receiver 2. So we're going to take Amari Cooper there. And look at that. I mean, just like that, the starting lineup outside of flexes, kicker, defense already done. That's what you like to have. Like I said, you got to build a good base around Jamar Chase. I love him to death, but I think he's where it starts to get a little iffy. You can't rely on him every single week. So as we go to round 7, still some tight ends there, still some running backs, still some wide receivers. For me, there's not a lot of good here in terms of on the board. Obviously, we're not taking the tight ends, so you can take out Kittle and Pitts. DeAndre Swift, he's solid, but I think his backups are just as good, if not better than him, to be honest. He's more of a change of pace back as well. I don't know how much I love him as a running back 3. Keenan Allen is there. Again, we talked about the Bears. So for me, I'm looking at Ramondre Stevenson here. I know he didn't have a great year last year, but we know he's going to be catching the ball out of the backfield. Ezekiel Elliott isn't there anymore, so that helps. His offense has to get better, and I think he's going to be a beneficiary of that. Obviously, he shares a bye week in Mixon in week 14. That hurts a little bit, but your backups we can get will help with that. So we're going to take Ramondre Stevenson in the 7th. He is our first flex, and in the 8th, not too much has changed. At the top of the board, another tight end. Obviously, we're not taking that with Kelsey, Evan Ingram there. Raheem Mostert is there. Xavier Worthy, Tony Pollard, Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, Rashee Rice. I've been high on him. I've been saying it. Calvin. Chris Godwin's going to be a problem. He's moved back into the slot. He's going to be the receiver that we've known and loved. You look at his bye week, week 11. Chase and Cooper are 12 and 10. That works out perfectly. He's a guy I'm extremely high on. I think he's definitely going to go for 1,000 receiving yards again. Baker Mayfield, say what you will about him, but he can get the ball out, and he is a solid quarterback in the NFL. And so I think Chris Godwin is a play here. Get you 3 wide receivers, 3 running backs, quarterback, tight end. Like we said, just got to build a good base around Jamar Chase. As we hit the back end of in round 9, again, not even going to think about it. It's going to be Nick Chubb. Obviously, he's on the PUP list to start the season, but when he comes back, we know the type of player he can be. I understand he's come back from a big injury, but again, he's your running back 4. Really, the only time you, quote unquote, will need him is if there is an emergency with an injury, which won't happen till at least week 2. And again, when you have those bye weeks with Ramondre Stevenson and Joe Mixon, that's week 14. He's going to be back by then. Dude is a monster. You've seen the footage of him lifting weights now on a huge knee, repping a ton of weights, squatting a ton of weights. He'll be just fine. So we go to round 10. Again, not a lot of great. Obviously, 2 tight ends at the top, and Ferguson and Njoku. Purdy, Caleb Williams are there. Keon Coleman, I understand why people are optimistic about him. I'm not. I got to see it to believe it for rookies, especially pass catchers in Buffalo. Christian Watson, again, injury concerns out the gate. So for me, I'm looking DeAndre Hopkins here or Brian Thomas. For me, I'm going to go what I know, and that's DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's an incredible receiver. I think he's still an incredibly underrated receiver. So we're going to take DeAndre Hopkins there. He's a very, very, very good wide receiver 4. There is no question about that. So as we come back to round 11, who do we got? We got some players here. We got Dallas. We got Keon Coleman still there. Caleb Williams, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. And here is where I think it's a good idea to take a flyer on wide receiver. But at the same time, I think for this team, again, Kyron Williams, Joe Mixon, I trust. Ramondre Stevenson, I trust. But, you'd assume his weekly output is going to be about double-digit points a game, about 10, 11, 12. Nothing great. Nothing awful, but nothing great. Nick Chubb, just in case he doesn't come back 100%, I think Ezekiel Elliott is a pick here. RB1 on a very good offense. Again, could somebody else sign there? Probably, to be honest, but he's going to get the goal line work. So now you're really short up at running back. Don't have to worry about running back at all, and you have 4 picks left. So in the 12th round, we'll pause it there. And again, it's a little tough with how this is shaking up with quarterbacks and tight ends, but there are some good wide receivers here as well. And, I've talked up TJ Hawkinson ad nauseum, so this will be a draft where we don't take him, but I really do like taking him here. I really do. Obviously, you already have Travis Kelce. They have the same bye week 6. Doesn't really matter. But, again, TJ Hawkinson's going to be a guy, come the end of the season, let's say plug Nick Chubb into the flex spot. Chris Godwin is going to be a monster. I love him a lot. But when some of these guys go on buys, TJ Hawkinson can absolutely be a monster at a flex spot. Absolutely. And even if he's not a monster as a flex spot, he can be a huge addition at the tight end spot or as trade bait. Or you can trade Travis Kelce. Like, the world is your oyster on that. And you have the whole tight end market in your pocket. So I love him. We won't take him for this draft. Instead, what we'll do is we'll take Romeo Doubs, wide receiver from the Packers. I think he's the red zone threat. I think it's nice to get another receiver at this point in the draft with how the team has been making up. And we'll see how it comes around to us at 13. And there it is at 13. Again, got Trevor Lawrence there. Don't need a quarterback. Don't need a tight end. Got some good running backs. Got some good wide receivers here. I think Chuba Hubbard's the guy. The reason I think Chuba Hubbard is the guy is because Jonathan Brooks is on the PUP list for 4 weeks, right? And when he comes back, do you think the Carolina Panthers are going to absolutely throw him into the dirt, a rookie into the dirt, week 5 and say, go? Absolutely not. Chuba Hubbard showed he was capable last year. He's going to be a good running back. I think what's going to happen is he's going to have a good first 4 weeks. You're going to put him on the trade block your league makes. You're going to say, well, Jonathan Brooks is coming back. And then they're going to see the splits. And they're going to see that Chuba Hubbard is really the 1A and Brooks is the 1B. Next year, it might be a different story, but I think Hubbard's going to have the 1A in this backfield for a while. So I think come week 7 or 8, the people in your league are going to go, what's your price on Hubbard? And then he's going to, at the very worst, be trade bait. At the very best, I think he can be a very usable player on your team because we know he can catch passes out of the backfield as well. So we're going to take Hubbard at 13. Got 2 picks left, 14 and 15. Obviously, if this is the first video watching, we don't take kickers or defense. You can pick them up, especially with guys like Chubb on the PUP list. You can put them in the IR slot, have an extra spot to pick guys up. So here it's really just, pick your poison. And for me, that's going to be a really tough call, to be honest with you. There isn't a lot of great things here. You're taking a shot in the dark. For me, I'm not picking J.K. Dobbins. I don't like coming back from the injuries he has. I don't even think he's the best back in that backfield. I think that's Gus Edwards. So I think wide receiver, a little Jacoby Myers love here is good. Obviously, they have Brock Bowers now, but I still think what he brings as a wide receiver is invaluable. And so then round 15, it's pretty much the same boards with the quarterbacks and the the kickers and the defense is being taken. So I think go running back here. I think go Tyler Algier again. Back up to Bijan Robinson. We know he's capable. So no matter what happens, you're going to have a very good team there. So with that being said, that is the end of the draft. How to build a championship team around Jamar Chase? Pretty simple. Jamar Chase in the first, Kyron Williams in the second, then Travis Kelce and Lamar Jackson in the third and fourth. Joe Mixon and Cooper in the 5th and the 6th. Stevenson, Ramondre, and Godwin in the 7th and 8th. Nick Chubb, and DeAndre Hopkins in the 9th and 10th. Ezekiel Elliott and Romeo Doubs in the 11th and 12th. Chuba Hubbard and Jacoby Myers in the 13th and 14th. And Tyler Algier in the 15th. And if you look at this team again, we talked about you got to build a good base around Jamar Chase. Amari Cooper is the running back, is the wide receiver 2, I know not everybody would love Amari Cooper as a wide receiver 2. But again, you also have Chris Godwin back there, DeAndre Hopkins back there, Romeo Doubs, Jacoby Myers. You obviously have pass catchers there. At running backs, again, Kyron Williams, Joe Mixon, that might not be the best 1-2 punch for you guys, but when you have Ramondre Stevenson, Nick Chubb post-injury, post-week 4. He'll probably be back week 5. Ezekiel Elliott there. Chuba Hubbard, who's going to be the starting running back for at least 4 weeks. Tyler Algier, love that. Lamar Jackson, he can carry your team for weeks. Travis Kelce, same thing there. So, again, good team all around. Tell us what you thought. Do you agree? Do you not? Who do you like? Who do you not? And what do you think about Jamar Chase's contract? Let us know in the comments below. With that being said, tune into all our other videos. Like, subscribe. We'll have the ADPs for 6, 7, 8, 9,